Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccerrules.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
We were honored to be guests of Matt Drinkall and the Central Michigan football program and be given the opportunity to sit down not only with Matt, but with his entire staff for this series. This first conversation is where everything begins. Before we talk position rooms, before we talk standards, culture, or identity, we needed to start with the head coach to understand how this program is being built and why it functions the way it does. Matt's journey from Kansas Wesleyan to Army West Point and now leading a Division I program at Central Michigan has consistently been shaped by one question: how do you build something that lasts? This isn't a conversation about scheme or play design, it's about leadership. It's about how you compensate people when you don't have resources and how you lead when you do. It's about building trust, alignment, and building systems that hold up when the calendar never stops and the pressure increases. We talk about loyalty, empowerment, and clarity, about authenticity versus authority, about developing people instead of controlling them, and about what today's players and coaches actually respond to in a rapidly changing game. This episode serves as the anchor for the entire series. Every conversation with his assistants, every position room, every standard you'll hear about traces back to what's laid out here. This is how Matt Drinkall approaches leadership. This is how Central Michigan football is being built. And this is where the story begins. It's great to see the evolution, to be able to sit down with you here. I think the first time we talked was on the phone, 2017. You were a young head coach at Kansas Wesleyan. We're almost 9 years later, and it's been fun to see you in your journey through this. So I'm excited. I appreciate the time that you're taking because I know you're a very busy man now, but I think an evolution for us, too, at the podcast to be able to do something like this.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for having me on and for coming to campus today. This is fantastic to have you here, so thank you.
I want to get into it right away. And one of the things you said I think has been impactful from the beginning, going back to that Kansas Wesleyan staff, was how you set things up and the culture that you built there. And when you were there, you were very clear. You couldn't compensate the guys with money, but like the bigger programs could. So you compensated with time, with environment, with clarity, with trust. And now that you're at a higher level, there obviously is better compensation and resources. Do those other things that were important then, that had to be the focus, are those as important? Do they matter? Do they matter differently than they did back then?
They probably matter more. You just have to go about them differently because of the calendar, I guess. So that they have made Division I football basically nonstop. So I think that, like we're going to play in our bowl game on the 26th. Come back and do our player exit interviews, and then the portal opens up, and then as soon as the portal closes, there's the AFCA convention. The second semester starts, and your team's set, and you're into the next season. So I really think like you can even see and feel it with where mental fatigue can set in on your staff, on your team, your players, because these seasons are long. They take a long time. So really having really quality work environments and giving them time as a compensation tool is more important to me now than ever. The only part that the guys who have been with me before, they kind of know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, in the sense of once the systems all get in place, then it starts to run itself a little bit easier. But when you're taking it over for the very first year, for the very first time, there's not really a super easy cheat code around any of that stuff as far as getting everything up and running. So the staffing, what this has allowed you to do, like when you go up into the FBS level, the quality of staffing that you can have that helps support every aspect of the program is so drastically different than other levels. It makes a huge difference in how you can operate from a managerial standpoint and just the way you run your organization.
Yeah, you guys were wearing a ton of hats back then. You still do as a head coach, but your guys had to fill multiple roles, and obviously now you have those resources. You know, in stepping into this situation, as you've grown to this level, I mean, as a leader, is there ever that temptation? Did it even cross your mind that, well, now I can compensate them so I can demand more, I could be different? I mean, you've always been demanding. I don't want to say that you weren't, but
Sure.
But you get, like, I guess the treatment of them differently,
Yeah.
right? Like, is that even a thought in your mind that that's going to make a difference now?
Not really. I mean, part of it is like you really have to do it. I see it as you almost having to do it the other way, because there's so much, you know, the coaches can get compensated so well at this level that there's a lot of time where it's like you think you have to like work 25 hours a day to justify making money. So I really think you can run into it a lot the other way, where I'm trying to kick guys out of the office and out of the building so we're not overdoing things, and that when they are here, their energy is revved up. But yeah, you can kind of, unfortunately where I run into it is a lot of perspective, in the sense it's like, all right, no matter how much we can pay a guy here, like Notre Dame and Georgia can pay him more. So if one of those guys wants to come in and do that, that makes, you know, retaining your own staff hard. But the other part is too, unfortunately, that as I get older, is you're like, well, the GAs don't make any money. You're like, well, I didn't make any money for a long time, so that's okay. I understand that. So as I get older and older, you turn into Ebenezer Scrooge a little bit, and you have to slap yourself to remind yourself of what's really important. But no, I try to, you know, I'm lucky because year one went well. So everybody likes you, but when you haven't played your first game yet, because you're undefeated. And then when your first year starts, you're at least protected somewhat by the length of your contract. So I hopefully, you know, interview me in year 4 or 5 here, and we'll see if it's still, you know, if I still feel the same way. Because I think it's easy to start great. It's can you adjust your systems and weather the storms that are organic and are going to happen anyway. Can you do that and without changing who you are and how you function? Part
of who you are in watching you, we became friends. We followed each other on Facebook, and I told you after the season, I think it was at AFCA. You guys were riding those scooters around and everything.
Oh, yeah. Good time.
And I said, you know, watching you guys, watching that play out, the stuff you shared, you know, the photos on Facebook and just the different things that you guys were having so much fun as a coaching staff. Coaching this game, winning ball games. I'm sure winning helps, but you could tell that there was a bond between that staff. And some of these guys are, you know, new to you. Some of these guys you've worked with before, and it's going to take some time. But how much of that is still something that's important to you that, hey, we want to enjoy what we're doing and the people that we're with?
You try to do it as much as you can. There's a couple parts that are a little bit harder to manage, I guess, now. Is one is just we're all older. So now everybody is married, and a lot of people are married and have kids, and you can't quite stay up as late as you used to. So all that stuff has changed a little bit of it. But the second part is, like you talked about, is there are people on staff I haven't worked with before. And to be totally honest with you, like my time at West Point now, when I look back on it, I really needed it. I needed it from a professionalism standpoint, a structure, no excuses, a discipline, a regimentation, watching, you know, a no excuse, whether it's academics, whether it's military, whether it's football, you find a way to get things done. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me, seeing where I was really deficient at and where I needed areas to grow, especially if I was going to be a manager or a leader or a head coach again. So that was incredibly beneficial to me to get there and do that. But then, like I said, is the other part too, is like with the staffing here, is every coach I hired, this is either the highest level they've ever coached or the highest title they've ever had in FBS football. So if you talk, like if you're in the building, it feels like we just got hired by the Detroit Lions. Like we couldn't be, everyone here is the happiest you could ever possibly be. So as a result, it's hard for me because everybody wants to do so well. They want, take so much pride and so much ownership. In the first year, when everybody's getting their bearings and you haven't been through the storm yet together, it's hard for them to, if I'm sitting here saying, hey, get out of the building or go do something for yourself that recharges your battery. It's hard for someone who hasn't worked with me before to realize, like, okay, if things aren't going good, how does me getting out of here earlier help, or or taking time to go do something different? But it's really important as we grow together, and like I said, it'll be a combination of as we continue to grow together, as the systems run themselves and we all kind of gain experience together, that should start to run smoother and smoother.
Yeah, and if you were to go back, somebody maybe who didn't hear that, you listen to that episode, someone might say, well, it worked because that was Kansas Wesleyan, it was a different level. When you look at the parts of your staff building approach, what do you feel maybe was contextual to KWU, and what's non-negotiable, and regardless of the level is something that this is how you build a staff?
Man, like hire loyalty and train skill. That is like the number one thing. Is when I first got into coaching, I got really good advice, and I didn't understand it because I was 20 years old at the time. But the guy who was a prominent head coach, he said, I really have two career goals. I don't want to work for a jerk, and I don't want to work with a jerk. And I kind of didn't understand it all the way at the beginning on the front end. And now when you're a head coach, it's like one of the things I have that's really important to me is like your road trip rule. Whether I'm hiring staff or recruiting players to come into the building. If someone in our building was driving the 2 hours down to Detroit, whoever is driving, we should want anyone else in the building should be able to get in shotgun, and both people should be excited about it. And that is like the number one thing to me that drives, because there's plenty of talented coaches who aren't going to be a good fit here, who would want to come here and find their next job as fast as they possibly can, or like maybe they're really, really smart, but they're not bought into being a team-oriented person. So I think the thing that I learned at Kansas Wesleyan was like, you can have a staff of like highly motivated, highly loyal, but inexperienced people and train and motivate that and develop that. But at the same time, when you get here, when you have mechanisms of like, all right, well, it's a more experienced professional, it's a little bit higher pay scale, so there's other elements that you can recruit from a different pool. It's the same set of challenges, I guess, in that regard. They're just presented to you differently. I joke with a couple other guys on staff who've been head coaches before, but like my job on a day-to-day basis is the exact same as it was at Kansas Wesleyan, just with more distractions. And I would imagine like that's what Ryan Day's job. I've never done that, but I imagine his job is just, you try to be a football coach in the midst of infinite distractions at a place like Ohio State. So, yeah, I hope that answers that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you bring that up, and you look as you move up the levels, the resources do increase, but so do things like ego, politics, expectations. So, as a leader, it might look easier. Well, this guy's got some resources now. How does it get harder to lead as those different things, are kind of pressing upon you as the guy at the top of the program now?
You can't make everyone happy. That's the one thing, is that you got to understand, like from a leadership standpoint here, and where one of my biggest challenges here is just educating like your fan base, not specific to Central Michigan, but just the fan base of like, it is not the same as it was in 1997 at a lot of places, or 2005. Like college football is as drastically different of a thing right now as it was 3 years ago. So that part of it is frustrating, I think, for a lot of college football fans and people that follow programs, because they don't understand why. They kind of want it to be back to how it was, and I don't blame them. I mean, it was probably better. The number one thing for us that I think that makes it less challenging is we are brutally transparent with everybody in our program that everything we're doing is in the best interest of our players. Like every single thing that we do academically or football-wise, or in their personal life, social life, their daily schedule, whatever it is, they know we are operating in their best interests all the time, and we lay that out and explain it. So internally with the kids, there isn't much struggle, I guess, as far as like leading or managing. There's the regular college age stuff that guys go through, and learning curves and all that stuff. But the biggest challenge, I guess, now is just the navigating the landscape of college football is there's a lot of ways that a lot of really successful like Take me, for example. I've been doing it 20-some years, 23, 24 years, and you kind of learn like the way you're going to do it, and this is what works, and I've been exposed to really good people and really good cultures, and all right, this is how you take these pieces and build it here. And then they come in at the last second and they go like, oh yeah, by the way, you can pay players and kids can get a bunch of eligibility back and they can leave anytime they want. And anyone on the planet Earth can say they're an agent and talk to your players the entire season all the time. So just that piece of it is the hardest to manage, just in the sense of no one has experience with this kind of college football right now. That makes it very, very challenging. So there's not like you can pick up the phone and call somebody for advice or guidance, because nobody else has it either. They're going through it the same storm you are. So that part of it is very frustrating, and especially this time of year where the bowl games are supposed to be this big reward, and you have some players opting out and teams opting out, and so, like the message that sends. And so that's, I guess, the biggest challenge, I guess, from a managerial standpoint. But everything else logistically here at Central has been phenomenal. I wouldn't change anything. There's a reason this place has been super successful before and why it's going to be in the future. And but yeah, most of the managerial changes, I guess, come from stuff that you can't control, is probably the best way to explain it.
Yeah, I know one of the things is important to you, and certainly you look to control, is loyalty. And you've said before, I want to hire loyalty over everything. Looking at the challenges now that maybe things get tested a little bit differently when you get to this level. You mentioned like guys can be successful, pick up and move because there's mobility, there's more money involved, all those things. So how does that loyalty get tested maybe in a different way for you than it did before?
I never lose sight of the fact that it's kind of like two models that coexist at the same time, where it's like, this isn't just a regular job. This is your way of life when you do this as a coach. So like, as a college coach, so there is no like, oh yeah, it's 9 to 5, see ya. Like I'm over, I'm clocked out today. That isn't how that ever works here. But at the same time, like having some of the ability to separate and how important that really is during the course of the development and during the course of the growth of your program. So when you're hiring some of these guys and building the relationships with these people, like take Coach Chapin and Coach Cronin, for example, as far as fit. Coach Chapin grew up in Troy, Michigan. He's a Michigan grad. Both of his parents are Central Michigan grads. Coach Cronin's from Detroit. His whole family's from Detroit. So that's where a lot of these guys, there's some ancillary pieces, like Coach Fulton. I've known him since he was in high school. Coach Fleming, I recruited him when he was in high school. Coach Upfer and I have worked together for 6 years when we were at Army West Point. So you try to go in with like a large amount of the loyalty kind of equity built up, I guess. But at the same time, like our job, at least my job, it's still a job at some point. So whereas much of this wants to consume your whole life and be exactly who you are, this place can let you go at the same time too. That's, you just watch James Franklin at Penn State just win whatever it was, 12 games, 11 games, 13 games, and he just got let go before the season was. I don't even know if they started conference play yet. So some of that stuff is a hard reality of the business that we're in as well. So if there are coaches on my staff that are going to be unbelievable head coaches and guys that are going to be incredible coordinators, and very, very soon. So my job is to develop them, and they're going to have guys that'll do the best job imaginable while they're here, but at the same time give these guys every single opportunity to advance their own. It's not their career, it's make a change in their lives. There's all kinds of variables that impact that. Like, I loved my time at West Point. I loved West Point as much as anybody. I didn't really like living in New York after a while. I missed the Midwest. So I was kind of at that point in time. But I spent 20 years growing up in the Midwest where you're like, this is boring. I can't wait to get out of here. So just as that changes, I think my job as a head coach is to develop, get these really good people in the building, and then when they're here, continue to challenge them and develop them for growth, and then support them in whatever they want to do and go. But yeah, I think it's that part of it is like if Coach Chapin, our offensive coordinator, for example, like, he's going to be a very successful college head football coach or a big-time NFL coach or coordinator somewhere else. Him getting that opportunity is not him being disloyal to me. So I want to help him and support him and develop him and grow, just like guys did for me and helped me out. And then I do think, like, in the recruiting piece of it, recruiting to fit matters. You know what I mean? It's not just, oh man, here's 10 really good snaps of his huddle, this guy's a good receiver. I think finding guys that are going to come here and do really well matters a lot too, and I think then you get some more of that. The loyalty piece is more roots are kind of set down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I think you've built into your staff culture, empowerment. You have to empower your coaches at this level. I mean, you said it when we were down on the field at the end of practice, like, you know, I'm going to go to meetings today and do all the stuff I need to so these guys can coach football. One of the challenges, though, as you empower your staff, you have more specialists, you have, like you said, the different support staff who handles those things. How do you prevent that empowerment turning quietly into different silos? Because everything still needs to come together, and you're the conductor, you're the maestro.
For sure. So it's a fine line to run. So I guess one of the things that's unique, I imagine like the model everyone probably can visualize the easiest is an NFL team. I am really, the way I run our college program is I'm really kind of like an NFL, this is the way my brain sees it. I'm kind of like the NFL owner. So the board that can fire me is the president, the athletic director, the donors that are the big time boosters, those people that can get really up in arms and want to football change. But they're really like the board. I'm like the owner. And then the business and football side separates, where the coaches and Coach Chapin like really kind of run the football side of it. And then Coach Upfer, who's our GM, runs the business side of it. So then from there, there's kind of like 6 lily pads that I view like that keep a healthy program afloat. And I spend my time jumping around between these 6 departments or 6 areas constantly. So that way that there's never an imbalance in the program where it's like, okay, well, I've spent all my time coaching O-line. I wish I could coach offensive line every second of every day. That's what I wish I could do. But for me to do that, I will then spend so much time, energy, and resources and neglect other parts of the program that are really, really important, especially as it gets set up and running. So you want to give away, like I have the 5 coordinators. So your offense, defense, special teams coordinator, our general manager, and then our strength coach. So whenever we have like coordinator or upper level management meetings, those guys and plus our director of analytics is involved in some of those. But really making sure that those guys are the head coaches of their areas, and we constantly have communication threads and meetings, alignment meetings basically. So everyone's on the exact same page and we all wonder why. Or we all know why. No one has to guess or wonder. So I think that's one of the things that happens is when people get siloed away is you really focus on like, okay, well, how is this affecting my room or us right now? And not because anyone's in bad intention, but because you don't have all of the information to make choices. So my job is to the information that's relevant to the other department heads is get them that information as much as possible and understand like, okay, not only here's this information, how it affects you and the other people, here's how it affects me and the program and what you need to know. So I think that alignment starts a little bit slower for us, the way we organize it, but then it distributes out at a much faster pace.
Flipping things to identity, and this is a big part of your culture, and I think this was true at Kansas Wesleyan. I remember you getting to Army in your first year there early in the season. I can't remember who you guys were playing, but sending me a clip of your tight end just mauling somebody. Like this was stuff that would get on the old, 90s NFL film highlight reels. You used to get those hit tapes every year, and you'd have these big, blocks and everything. Your guys were physically mauling people. It was impressive, and it's kind of been the identity of you. And obviously that kind of identity you want as part of your culture. And it doesn't just, we're going to put this on the players. I mean, you need that alignment with staff. And I think, you went on and helped scale that with Coach Vitti and the offensive line to the tune of, winning a Joe Moore Award in 2024 as the best offensive line there. And just talking to Aaron Taylor during that time, he's talking about different guys like Harry Heastan, who was just impressed with how you guys were knocking people off the ball. So that physicality, that mindset of violence, you called it in your presentation, is something that you've identified not as some kind of rah-rah thing or a slogan on a wall, but behaviors the standards, that physical football is the way we do things, an old school feel. I remember when you first got here, one of your first posts on X is, we're looking for fullbacks, right? Not something you hear often. Like, usually say, hey, we're going to throw the ball around and we're looking for receivers. We need fullbacks, right? And, looking at that now, how do you coach that? How does that translate from your belief right there to make sure that every single room here, regardless of position, understands, like, this is a standard of Chippewa football?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of those things that you have to, like, look under the hood every single day. And it's really where, again, my time at West Point around Coach Munkin and specifically around Coach Vitti and Coach Hughes, the strength coach, but it's just like where a lot of people like a highlight version of physicality, like I said, learning it from Vitti in meetings and watching him coach every day it's not highlight anything, and it's not anything you get prepared for. It's really got to become embraced of, like, who you are and how you see it and how you go about it all of the time. And it's the things that I learned the most is, like, the craziest, most psycho guys are, like, the really quiet ones, like the really nice ones and the really quiet ones. It's not, go listen to the craziest, loudest music. And there is a methodology and a systematic approach to being physical and demanding that out of yourself mentally all of the time. And that's where I think it really starts. I don't know a way for you to not possess that mentally and then it show up physically. But I know for a fact that if you train that mental skill, it is almost impossible for it to not show up. So again, finding those guys that are willing participants, and we talked about here, like, we showed we studied a lot of the analytics of the demographic in this conference, and, like, what teams that when you win this conference, you're doing these things successfully in and out. And, like, right now in the era of college football where it is a bunch of, like, transfer out, it's all about stats. What can I get for me? Like, if you want to have success, that's how everyone's doing it. If you want to have success, you have to be willing to do things other kids are unwilling to do. So that, like, one of the things I take a lot of pride in is we won 7 games this year and had a very good season. We only had 5 kids that were all conference. We could have sat and thrown the ball to one receiver or hand the ball to one back or whatever, but for all of our kids to play and play so much and play as a team, that is a testament to how things culturally are going. But yeah, we have to be willing to do the things other people are unwilling to do, and to be mentally tough all the time and to be a violent son of a bitch all of the time. And to practice against that, to be like that all the time is very, very challenging. So you got to inspect that and talk about it all the time.
You've talked about the systems, and you could tell your excitement of, hey, this is your one. We're laying the groundwork for our systems to really get in place and this to start clicking like a well-oiled machine. Like you said, it's going to start to run itself. We're going to sit down, in this series with each one of your coaches and who are part of that system now. And, it's the beginnings of this. Some of these guys have worked with you before, but what would you expect to hear from them here at the end of year one? What are the kind of things that they're going to say that, this is what it's like to work here? This is how we do things.
Hopefully, man, that's a good question. Hopefully you hear them talk about a couple things. Is that there's an organized a detail and organized plan for everything that we do, that we are truly all about people first and relationships. I'm much more concerned with us doing it the right way, not my way, not being right, but it being the best in the best interest for our kids. Like I said, that there are standards and accountability for everything, that everyone feels accountable for pulling your weight around here. But I'll be curious. I'm curious myself to hear what they're going to say, but hopefully some of those things, like the communication, the organization, the transparency, the details, are all great. But hopefully they all talk about that it's really people-led first. That is what I hope to hear.
Everything we're talking about here, the trust, the clarity, compensation beyond money, really all of this goes beyond football. I mean, you think of this could be applied to really any situation of leadership. When you strip away the football, what do you think that leaders misunderstand most about building high-functioning teams? Because you've been a part of it. You led it before. you were a part of that. You always talked about, when you and I would talk about the culture that you're a part of at West Point and how valuable that is to you. Looking at this now and where you're going, what is it that maybe people misunderstand, they don't get right, that looking at this situation might shed some light on?
I certainly don't have all the answers, but I can tell you a couple of things that I like at least go into my thought process is like, I think one mistake a lot of leaders make when they're trying to do it right is they're more concerned with being authoritative than they are authentic. Like, I talk to the team about this a lot, but like, I don't give a shit that I'm the head coach here. Like, because I'm not supposed to be. You're not supposed to be like the O-line coach at a place and then get an FBS head job. So like, my superpower as a head coach is that I don't care that I'm a head coach. Like, I'll just talk to anybody, like it's just whatever. You can get to certain levels where you can use a title or you can use a certain amount of power that you have to gain leverage to get what you want. And I don't know that works as well consistently as if you remain authentic to who you are and how you go about your stuff, whether titles or successes change and go up and down. So I think that would be one. I will tell you this about dealing with this age group of people. I think there's like a common myth of like every generation always talks about how much softer the next generation is. And, the one I hear all the time is like all these kids are on their phones, you know what I mean? Like they're always on their phones. There is a huge result of two things that has happened for these kids growing up on their phones. Number one is they have been exposed to way more of the world than any of us were at that age. Back in the day, like if we break up with your girlfriend in high school, like you never saw her again. Like she was out of your life. I mean, did you even go to school still? But now it's like, what they're doing, who they're talking to now, like the better vacations, better presence, like all that is an incredibly different level of stress. Every news story or terrorist act ever, like they have access to all that information all the time. So that's made them incredibly mentally tough, I think, and some a little bit jaded, but just that exposure to things that they haven't. And then the other piece is too, is like they've grown up the only social media I even have now is X for recruiting, because the rest of everything else has been so monetized now. Like the kids that we recruit, they've grown up on an algorithm, and they are starved for authenticity and transparency. Like somebody just tell me real. Don't sell me an ad. Don't target something towards me. Don't have it be when I talk about something, it shows up on my phone 2 minutes later. Like these guys want just brutal honesty and interaction and truth, and I think that is one thing that we've done a good job here of noticing from a leadership standpoint with this group of people, of a good way to connect with them and get to them. Is I really think that pendulum has swung back the other way, where it's like the people who are doing less tech and relying on less of that stuff for everything are going to do a lot better now. I think people really kind of want more is not always better. You know what I mean? It's like you eat the one too many Oreos and you're just like, oh my God, I can't ever eat these again. You know what I mean? It's like, but they were good until that point. Technology is probably like that as well. But I would say like the two, being authentic versus authoritative, and then for sure like the challenges and byproduct of having these kids growing up around social media and technology all of the time.
It's something that came out in one of your interviews, that authentic part, that you've never been afraid to tell anybody the truth. And you even said to your coaches, I need you to tell me the truth, right? Like, you've been very vulnerable with it. I mean, I can remember your talk at AFCA, where you threw the slide of Dwight Schrute up there. Said,
still true.
Yeah, the quote, you probably remember it better than me, but
I think, would an idiot do this? If the answer is yes, I do not do that thing. That's you've tried to pretty much stay by that. Pretty smart.
And you've created that situation in the past where you've told your assistants, I need you to tell me the truth. Like if I'm headed down the right track, and you've been vulnerable like that. And it's been nice to see like that authenticity in you hasn't changed because you moved from Kansas Wesleyan to Army, and then Army to here, and have some accolades along the way. You're being you, and that's probably very freeing in the situation as the expectations increase, is that at the end of the day, all you're going to do is be the best Matt Drinkall you can be.
Yeah, I will tell you this: the hardest part of my job so far, and don't get me wrong, it's changed some now, but no one tells you the truth. It's hard to get the truth out of people. Because no one wants to be the person who gives you bad news or information you don't want to have, because you hold people accountable for it. So it might be an issue with the training table at cafeteria, or something with academic support, or something with ticket sales or marketing, or something with athletic training. Like, whatever it is when you come to go get answers, no one really wants to be the one who upsets you or lets you down or let the team down. So it's hard to get some of those workarounds through of like, hey, it's okay, just tell me what's going on so I have the information so we can adjust and get through it. So it is really, really, I don't know how you can do this without having, people that will be brutally honest with you, so you avoid. Otherwise, you just go through your whole time of very little perspective, very, very veiled perspective, in the sense of you don't get all the information and you don't know the real hard truths about it. And you've seen historically when that happens culturally at some of these football programs or big places, that usually ends pretty bad. So I want, as much as I possibly can, where people aren't, dogging us to death or whatever, but we want to know, what are things that we can be doing better, and where can we improve. And yeah, but that's hearing the truth, man, I don't know if there's anything more valuable than that.
Matt, I appreciate you taking the time here. I know you're prepping for a bowl game, giving us this peek inside your program, allowing us to sit down and talk to your different coaches and dig into all these leadership and cultural aspects of building a staff even more. And, congratulations on a successful year one, and certainly we're going to continue to watch you, hopefully be a part of that, and look for you to do more as you continue to grow as a coach.
Well, thank you so much for coming to campus and doing this this project on our program. And like I said, it's such a great group of people to cheer for. The coaches here are fantastic. Our players are great. Our alumni base and all of Central Michigan. It's a fun football program and collegiate university to cheer for and to be a part of. So we're really lucky and trying to do right by everybody all the time. And just the more you guys are out covering our sport and covering our program, the better it is for everybody. So thank you so much.
This conversation with Matt Drinkall sets the anchor for everything that follows. Not scheme, not play calls, but how you lead people when resources are tight and what still matters once they aren't. At Kansas Wesleyan, compensation showed up as time, clarity, environment, and trust. At Central Michigan, the scale is different, but the work is the same. What you heard here isn't the end of the story. It's the foundation the rest of it sits on. Matt will continue to appear throughout the series to remind us of what anchors this conversation. From here, the perspective shifts. Now the staff takes the lead. In the episodes ahead, we move out of the head coach's office and into the position rooms. Each conversation is with assistant coaches and coordinators, different responsibilities, different pressures, all working inside the framework you just heard. Matt's voice remains as an anchor. The conversation belongs to the staff. The goal isn't agreement, it's alignment. How do standards show up on a random Tuesday? How does trust hold when correction is required? How does identity survive when volume disappears and the margin for error shrinks? This episode set the foundation. The next ones show what it looks like in practice. As you wrap up this episode, I want to challenge you with this. Don't just take notes. Don't just nod along. Apply it. This conversation, like every episode inside the Coaching Coordinator Network, doesn't end when the episode ends. If this topic sparked ideas, questions, or challenges in your own program, head into the AI companion connected to this episode. Use it to revisit concepts, get clarity, and map what you heard today to your specific player, staff, and situation. And if you're ready for deeper learning, our Smart Clinics are opening this week, designed to give you structure, progression, and support beyond a single talk or presentation. Coaching Coordinator is no longer just something you listen to, it's something you use. Thanks for being part of the network, and we'll see you in the next episode.